Good afternoon, everybody. It's me, Marcia from Kansas Misfit. Anyway, I'm going to talk to you today. Hopefully, I'm talking to people who are new to gardening since a lot of gardening is happening this year because uh, we need to grow our own food or we probably aren't going to be able to eat. So, if you don't have a garden, it's time to get one started. You don't have to have a plumb gigantic field. You don't have to have a whole backyard. You can just have like the front porch. You can have 5-gallon buckets that you can get from free from the grocery stores. Or maybe even go to some restaurants that have pickles. When their jugs are empty, ask for a few jugs. Take those, fill them up with your potting soil, put your plant in there, or plants, whatever you want to plant in there, and grow your little bitty garden. Grow you a big garden with lots of buckets. You can even make a tower. You can make shelves, like a 3-layer shelves, one on the bottom and then over like 2 foot, and raise it up about 2 foot, and put a shelf there, and then over 2 foot and up another 2 foot, and put a shelf there, and you have 3 different shelves, 6 foot tall, with all your buckets, or you can make them closer together. Fill your buckets up, plant your peppers, your onions, your potatoes, and your tomatoes, and your pumpkin, whatever you want, and then you put the pumpkins on the bottom so that they come out, and then the pumpkins are laying on the ground. That way you don't have to worry about them falling over onto. My husband's trying to call me, but I'm trying to ignore that so I can finish this video. But to have your pumpkins laying out on the ground instead of putting them on the top shelf and then they fall down on everything else. So you put the things that viney on the bottom, and then things that just come up and small on the top. So, and then you got your little garden. It only takes up like 6 foot, 10 foot space, and then you can fix that all up and have you some food and save you some money. So when I'm going to talk to you, if you're new, even if you're not new, and even if you already know everything, I'm just going to talk about what I have in front of me, which is the Vegetable Garden to Planning Guide. And it's a short little thing, so sit back and listen. Take notes if you want. Follow along and plant yourself a garden. Comment on what you think is right or wrong about it. This is not what I wrote. This is just something I got from my mom. So, and it was a few years back. As you can see, it's very old and falling apart. It has charts and everything, but I'll get to that in a minute. It says, a well-planned, properly tended vegetable garden, can not only provide an excellent source of fresh, nutritious vegetables for the family, but provides relaxation and enjoyment for the entire family. With a few simple tools, a little space, and a desire to assist nature in planting growth, anyone can be a successful home gardener. Anyone, did you hear that? Anyone. The information in this tip sheet provides a brief guide to vegetable gardening, planting information condensed from the Kansas Garden Guide, available at your local county extension office. For further information on vegetable gardening, consult with Kansas Garden Guide, an additional reference listed on page 3 of this publication. Now, this is for Kansas. So you might be in a different zone, so these might not pertain to you, but this is just an idea to help you to be able to get started if you want to plant. So just a little bit off in the month or whatever, a little earlier or a little later, but this is just for Kansas. Go to your extension office, whatever state you're in, and you can get the same guide from them. But I'll go through it here now so you can know a little bit of what to expect. And if you really want to start a garden, start small or whatever, I'm here to help you get started. It says your vegetables. I'm not planting all these, I'm just planting what I want. So then it has asparagus, lima beans, green beans, or wax beans, which is the yellow ones, pole beans, beets, broccoli, cabbage, carrots, cauliflower, chard, Chinese cabbage, cucumbers, eggplant, kohlrabi, kohlrabi, something I've never had. Kohlrabi. Leaf lettuce or head lettuce, muskmelon, onions from the seed or onions in the little plant that you plant down that's already starting to grow, okra, parsnips, peas, peppers, potatoes, pumpkins, radishes, rhubarb, summer squash, winter squash, spinach, sweet corn, sweet potatoes, tomatoes, turnips, and watermelon. And it tells you for a foot row per person. Like for 20 foot, you can plant, every 20 foot would plant one person for a year's supply of food of asparagus. And if you get this from your extension office, it'll show the exact thing for your county or your state. The second page, is the vegetable information. It says the different crops that I mentioned. And it says type of planting, whether it's perennial crowns or seeds transplants, perennial crowns seeded, or seeded or transplanted, like if you already have a plant or you just putting the seed in. And then it tells you the day to harvest the plant that you planted, how far along they are, like 50 to 60 days, 65 to 75 days. Or you can get 100 to 120 days. So you know the ones that's bigger numbers need to be planted earlier so you have time to grow them before your season is done. Then you have your plants that per 100-foot row. So if you have a 100-foot row, if you have that big of a garden, you can get like 75 asparagus out of a 100-foot row. You can get 10 pounds potatoes out of a 100-foot row. 30 to 60 pounds of tomatoes out of a 100-foot row. That's just a small detailed mentioning of the amounts you can get. Days of germination, it tells you like 10 to 20 days or 5 to 8 days. 5 to 8 days. Oh, that's before it comes up out of the ground. Yeah, germination. And then there's 7 to 10 days on some of them, 8 to 12 days. Some are faster than others. And the seeds depends on how big they grow too. The depth, how deep you put the seed in the ground. And then the space, how far apart the rows should be. And the average space between the rows. So you have so much in, like you have your row right here, and how far apart you need to put them, and then how far apart these rows need to be. So this is all in there, and it tells you your frost reference, hardy, tender, half hardy, very tender, so that way you know which ones, if they're hardy, they probably won't have no harm done to them. If they're very tender, you want to keep an eye on them, cover them if you have a frost. And then we have a chart here that shows like March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, the years that you can plant in, the months that you can plant in, and what to plant in that month, what to plant in that month, and then go by this guide on how to plant your garden. So this is April. In April, it says you can do cabbage in the beginning of April, collards towards the middle and to the end, chard, carrots, all towards the end, broccoli in the middle, from the beginning to the middle, and then you have endive, whatever that is, endive. I have no idea what that is. Cauliflower, potatoes, radishes, and whatever this salisfy, SALSIFY, whatever that is. Onions, peas can still be planted in April, spinach, turnips, and beets. So that means I can still plant my potatoes, I can still plant some beets and some turnips and some spinach. I can still plant my peas. So I still got a lot more planting to do just for April. And in May, it tells you to start your lima beans or your snap beans, which is green beans. Your cucumbers can be planted in May. Your eggplant plants in May. Your melons can be starting at the end of April or throughout May. You can plant some more lettuce in May, but you also can harvest lettuce. This has, when you plant, And then the little black divided lines tells you the times when you can harvest those plants. So this is kind of nice. It says, for additional information, consult the publication available at your local county extension office. Kansas Garden Guide, Kansas Garden Calendar, Garden Pest Control, horticulture, tip sheets, fertilizing gardens, composts, tomatoes, growing herbs, asparagus, and rhubarb. And then the last page says common garden problems. Symptoms: plants stunt in growth, sickly yellow in color. And then the possible causes is lack of soil fertilization, or the pH is abnormal, or corrective measures to correct that. You use fertilizer to correct the pH according to the soil test. Use 3 to 4 pounds of the complete fertilizer per 100 square foot in absence of the soil test. So you take your soil you take your soil to the county extension office, the same place you get your information. They give you anything you need help with. They'll give you information on how to do it. They got papers and books, and I don't know if you have to buy some of them or what, but this was free. It was given to my mom and she gave it to me. And just go through these things. Check out if you have a problem in your garden. What is that? How do I get rid of this? And they'll tell you if it's a disease and what you need to do to get rid of that, and go from there. Then it says home gardens do's and don'ts. There's only 10 of them, so I'll brush through them really fast. It says 1. Use mulches to conserve moisture, control weeds, and reduce roots. 2. Keep plants free from insects and diseases. 3. Examine plants often to keep ahead of potential problems. 4. Keep weeds out. 5. Remove tomato suckers as soon as they form, 1 or 2 inches long. 6. Sample soil and have it tested every 3 to 4 years. 7. Apply fertilizer to garden area in recommended manner. 8. Thin when plants are small. 9. Avoid excess walking and working in the garden when the foliage and the soils are wet. 10. Wash and clean sprayer well after each use. And then the don'ts. There's 9 of those, so 9 don'ts. 1. Cultivate deeply to injure plant roots. So don't cultivate too deep when you're cleaning up the weeds in between the rows. 2. Water excessively so that the water is always wet and soggy. Don't do that. Don't apply chemicals or pesticides in the herbicide manner or without reading the label directions. 4. Don't use varieties not recommended for your area. 5. Don't allow weeds to grow large before beginning to cultivate. Because the roots of the weeds are wild. They go every which way, especially if you get Johnson grass. They grow sideways and they grow there, and they get about as thick as my finger, maybe even thicker. And they're very hard to get out. They're obnoxious. 4. Use varieties not recommended in your area. I read that. 6. Planting so closely that you cannot walk or work in the garden with your garden tools. Don't plant them too close together. 7. Don't tie a tomato too tightly to the stalk so that the stem is cut by the string or so that it rubs against the stake. So you want to make it loose so it has room to wiggle in the wind. 8. Don't place fertilizer directly in contact with the plant roots or the seeds. 9. And do not use chemicals not specifically recommended for garden crops. Anyway, that's the information I wanted to share with you today. I thought it was important. It's something I'm going to use towards my gardening, and I want to be able to have a good garden because I want to have food that will be healthy and that'll last and that I enjoy. And I hope this is good information for somebody out there that really wants to know a little bit about gardening that don't know, you know. So I hope you enjoyed this. Smash the like button, and I'll see you guys tomorrow with something else. So have a wonderful day. Ta ta for now.